do want to talk about your past a little bit. You got into Bitcoin pretty early in the game. I think you said you got into Bitcoin when you could still mine on your laptop.
Yeah. So my Bitcoin days. So I started mining Bitcoin. I was running a startup back in Boston, and we were doing some hardware, both hardware, software systems kind of design. And I was rendering some hardware on these like loud servers, and had a lot of downtime. It was like 3 a.m. and I was scrolling through Twitter. Someone I followed had shared something about Bitcoin. Hey, check this out, tokenized money, whatever. And that was a link to the Bitcoin white paper. So I downloaded it and read it, and I was like, amazed. Oh, this is really cool. I didn't understand like half of it, so I read it again. Before I knew it, it was like 6 a.m. I was watching the sunrise, and
Wow.
this thing kind of captivated me. So I kind of put it aside. I think it was the next day or 2 days after that. I actually was like, I'm going to kind of get a little level deeper. I ended up downloading what they call the Bitcoin QT client, which is the original kind of reference wallet way to like operate a node on Bitcoin. And before I knew it, after a few different, starts, restarts, I was actually mining Bitcoin on my laptop. And, at that time, it was not that big of a deal. Like the community was very small. There were a lot of like weird people online talking about it. So no one really kind of took it super seriously in 2011. There were some people just kind of plodding around. So I would periodically mine as if you would like, you had a garden in your backyard, and you're like a part-time gardener, and but then the
Like
miner would go down. Yeah, it was totally a hobby. And so every now and then I'd like pick it back up, get the miner running again, kind of go through that. In hindsight, it was a costly for me to not continue mining, right? But it wasn't until 2013 where I was winding down another startup. And I said, this Bitcoin thing has been pretty fun. It seems like it's picking up. I'm starting to see more legitimate players in the space. Entrepreneurs getting actual, bona fide venture funding, and the access, to crypto is becoming more mainstream. Brian Armstrong at the time was really, starting to grow Coinbase, and so I said maybe, I think it's time for me to kind of stake my career on the technology. And I kind of promised myself, I said, no matter what happens in the market, it's probably going to go up and down, whatever. But, as long as I focus on the core technology and advancing the technology in different ways, I think I can carve out a pretty cool and fun career doing this. So I decided to do that. I launched actually a startup called Hedgie that was backed by Tim Draper and Mark Benioff, the current CEO of Salesforce. Yeah, these guys were like, I think the industry called them super angels that were really interested. Tim Draper is a huge advocate of Bitcoin. Very excited, amazing, investor to work with, so much energy and passion. And then, Mark was, kind of the same way. He wanted to learn more about the space. And so we went through the Boost VC accelerator program, which at the time was like one of the premier, crypto blockchain kind of accelerators. And I moved out from Boston back to California. I'm a California native. So parents were happy to see me back in California. And all of a sudden, saying I'm involved in Bitcoin, at least in Boston, that was kind of like a weird thing. But in Silicon Valley, people were just opened up. It's like, oh yeah, we heard about Bitcoin, let's get involved. And at that time, the community was really small. So all the meetups, conferences, they were in the order of like, dozens of people, to a big conference was maybe a couple hundred. Nowadays, tens of thousands of people and everything. So we ran the company for a couple of years. Hedgie was focused on building out actual smart contracts in the Bitcoin blockchain, and focused on reducing the volatility risk for Bitcoin miners. So Bitcoin miners would, periodically constantly mining Bitcoin. They knew like relatively how much Bitcoin they were going to mine in over the course of a month. they didn't know what the price was going to be. It was going to, obviously with the volatility. And the thing about Bitcoin miners is they were just almost like at the time small businesses, right? They couldn't raise venture funding, so they had to pay bills, electricity, rent on facilities and everything. So they needed to have some guaranteed amount that they could actually, So we had a platform that was actually, looking back, was one of the first DeFi platforms running smart contracts on the Bitcoin blockchain. This was so long ago that Ethereum hadn't even launched yet. And then when they launched, the platform wasn't stable enough for us to actually bring like real value. In fact, I think at some point Vitalik had said, don't put real money on this yet. And so we took that as a pretty good indicator that we weren't going to do that. So we were able to, build some value, and you had miners on one side, you had institutional investors on the other that were helping the miners kind of hedge their risk. And we had a great time. As is the course of many crypto stories, we needed some regulatory clarity to progress with the platform, and we couldn't get it. And so we kind of had to close up shop, but we ended up selling the platform to a company called Wire. It was run by some friends of mine. They are kind of focused on the onboarding and offboarding, or kind of getting in and out of crypto. And they still use the platform for some of that. So that was kind of my foray, basically taking a hobby into a full-time job, which has now become a career. And it's been awesome working on the technology ever since.
Still ahead on Beyond the Blockchain, how Warren Paul Anderson feels the movie Ready Player One could foretell our crypto future.
That's when all hell breaks loose, right?
Yeah.